Good afternoon and welcome to Fast Horses Today. Today is Saturday. It is April 26th. And, nice day of racing they've got carded there over at Santa Anita. So I think that a couple nice horses later in the card. So it's going to prompt me to play a late pick 5 and a win bet. And let's go from there. So let's get started for Saturday at Santa Anita. Okay, so I'm going to skip over the first several races. In the fourth race, Flightline's little brother, Eagle's Flight, is running. So maybe, one to watch there, see how good Eagle's Flight could end up becoming. I know he comes off a win, but, maybe a nice horse just to watch and see, if he runs anywhere near as great as his older brother. But as far as betting today, I'm going to move over to the seventh race. Seventh race is the feature. It's the Royal Heroine, grade 3, and it's a mile on the grass. Seventh race has approximate post time about 4 o'clock Pacific, so 6 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone. And I've got a horse that I like. I'm going to make her a single on my pick 5 ticket, my late pick 5, and as well as I'm going to make a win bet. And that would be the 2-horse Raw Ability for John Sadler. Now, it looks like today Sadler's got several live horses and, could end up having a big day there for the John Sadler barn. But Raw Ability gets Hector Barrios. Hector Barrios has ridden her twice. Just watching her film, I really like this horse and, what she's done so far here in Southern California. So, she had come off the boat and ran first time out at Del Mar back in late summer of last year. That was towards the end of their meet. And, she had come off one start, which was a win in Gowran Park in Ireland. They brought her to Del Mar. She ended up taking on a first level allowance field, and she just won very stylishly, in my opinion. She swept, wide, made a wide move, just made a great run, and, closed from last to first. And, horses really weren't doing that in the Del Mar summer meet last year, where they were making those wide sweeping moves and winning. So I thought she overcame what seemed to be a bias at the Del Mar turf course last year, and, she got it done and got it done nicely. So, apparently, something went amiss there. Where she hadn't run from September. They brought her back on St. Patrick's Day over at Santa Anita in a second level allowance race. And, she passed that test flying colors, in my opinion. Honestly, to me, that looked like it was just really a workout. I mean, it was a short field, 6 horses. She ended up stalking her stablemate, which wasn't much of a horse these days. That stablemate, I don't remember her name, but Kitty Katana. And just kind of stalked her around the track and then just made a move in the stretch and, just took off and ended up winning. And, really, to me, it looked like she was probably running closer than she'd like to be. But, it was just really a result of it being a small field and nobody really wanting to lead. And she just ended up stalking her stablemate there in Kitty Katana. So it just, to me, looked like a workout. But anyway, what it does show is that it shows that she does have versatility. So, going from last to first in her initial start and then running close to the lead, taking over and stretch and winning. So it just shows to me that she's not a one type of horse and can probably just do a lot of things. So anyway, this is her step up into graded stakes competition. She's 9-2. I think it's a great move for the Sadler barn. They found a great spot for her here, and I'm going to see how much raw ability has. I'm going to make her a single, and I'm going to make a win bet on her at 9-2. That would be the 2-horse Raw Ability. All right, now let's go over to the 8th race of the day. 8th race is it's a starter allowance race. That's the the Northern California style races they've been running, but this actually, these are now open to the Southern California horses. So this ends up being a starter allowance where you had your horse in at 8,000 or less in 24, 25, or if you haven't done that, you put your horse in for a 10,000 claim. So this is 6 furlongs on the dirt. This drew a big field, so nice betting race here. I'm going to put 3 horses in. I don't know that it's as simple as the favorite, so I'm going to put 3 horses in here to get this pick 5 moved along. I'm going to put the 6, who is Discrepancy. Peter Miller claims this horse off of Sergio Morfine. Abel Lascano takes the call. Now, this horse is 8-1 in the program. This horse has been running, pretty good form, in these claiming races for 10,000, 8,000. So it looked like Peter Miller claimed this horse, in the last race, off of Morphine, as I mentioned. The horse was a favorite that day. Got a kind of a bad start and just had way too much to do. Ended up just kind of finishing up, middle of the field, running an even race. But, we'll see if Peter Miller, he is the magic man over there at times and, really moves horses up. So, You may not have to do too much to move her up because, like I said, she's been in form, coming off of, 2 out of 3 wins in her last 3 races. So discrepancy 8-1. See if people might have forgotten about her and, she might get it done here. I'm going to also put the 9, who is Ufta. Ufta comes in for Ian Kruljak. Ian Kruljak's taken over the horses for Eric Kruljak, his dad. So I don't know if Eric Kruljak has retired. I'm not too sure, but there's several horses here that are listed under Ian Kruljak today that he's taken over for Eric Kruljak, his father. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out what the story is there. But, Ufta comes off of some races where she's run with some better horses. So she's dropping into this $10,000 claiming race. She's a horse that shows speed. And, in these lower level races, speed and horses that are running close seem to have an advantage because they're not really coming from too far back in these type of races. So 8-1, Tyler Bays, certainly a jock that likes to run on the lead, knows what to do. This horse can get a good trip, and let's see if she could finish. That would be the 9 horse, Ufta, at 8-1. And then finally, I'm going to put the 10 horse, who is the favorite, John Sadler here. And this one, Ayuso takes the call, 2-1 here. Ayuso's been riding this horse the last several times. She comes off a couple wins as well against better. She really, steamrolled an allowance or starter allowance field back in February. Won that race by 12 lengths. So she's running with less here. It's just a matter of we'll see if Champagne Cami is is ready to go today. So Sadler puts her in for the $10,000 claim. That's why she qualifies for this race. So the Sadler Hronis stables are looking to get rid of this girl. So I don't know if this is a panic drop or they're just on to bigger and better things there in their barn. So Champagne Cami certainly fits here. She's 2-1, so we'll put her in there. So we've got the 6, the 9, and the 10 there in the 8th race. All right, let's go to the 9th race of the day. 9th race, a mile in the grass. These are California first level allowance horses, or there's an optional claim for $20,000. So you definitely get a mix up of horses here, horses that have been running at this level, horses that are in for the claim. That's why they're here. So it makes for a good betting race here. So I've got 3 horses I'm going to put in. I'm going to put the 1 who is Clouseau. Clouseau, I've spoken about this horse several times in previous episodes of Fast Horses Today. I've always liked Clouseau. He disappointed me last time. Came through for us on Valentine's Day. That was a nice kiss from Clouseau. But last time the horse ended up disappointing. Was a favorite that day. Ended up getting claimed. So this horse has been, live in the claim box. So every time he's been in for a claim, someone jumps in and claims this horse. So he got claimed out of that February 14th race. That was a win. And ended up getting claim out of the March 14th race. Papa Padromo takes the horse over here, puts Hector Barrios on. And, Papa Padromo's another magic man where, he seems to do some magical things with horses at times. So we'll see what he does there today. This horse is 9-2, so I'm going to put Clouseau in. Clouseau's trying the turf here. Well, Clouseau's been on the turf a couple times. I remember Clouseau a couple years back ran a nice second in the the Snow Chief, which California stakes race, which they run, for the 3-year-olds. So I know this horse, being by Distorted Humor, shouldn't have any problem with the turf. So we'll put Clouseau in. Going to also put the 5 horse being Brazenly. Brazenly come out of the Dan Escarati barn. Escarati, limited starters, but, Brazenly is probably his best horse, I would think. This horse always seems to show up and run a nice race. Tiago Pereira takes the call here. Now here's the question on this horse. This horse is running on the turf, has turf breeding, but, the turf record leaves something to be desired here. The horse is 0-for-8 on the turf, including an 0-for-4 at Santa Anita with 2/3. But, this horse seems to be in good form, has been running some nice speed figures. As I mentioned, shows up and gives it his best. He ran with a couple really nice horses in his last 2, getting beat by Eagles Flight, which I mentioned, that's Flightline's little brother running earlier today. And then next race, coming second to Extensive. And Extensive's a really nice horse out of the Michael McCarthy barn. So, those are 2 nice horses to run up against. So Brazenly's running up against Softer here. He's 5-2. So we'll see if this horse can get on the turf and show a better result here. That's the 5 horse, Brazenly. And then finally, I'm going to put the 7, who is Jimmy Blue Jeans for Jeff Mullins. Mullins puts this horse in for the claim for the $20,000. This horse has definitely run through these conditions before. So I know, this is just a matter of, Mullins did drop this horse into a claiming race last time. back in early March, and this horse ran in a 32,000 claim on the turf at a mile. Same distance here, same turf. And, the horse ran a nice race that day. So, looks like, I don't know if the Mullins Barn's looking to get rid of this horse, or they're just running the horse where he belongs, at this, stage of his career. Hey, being a 7-year-old gelding, he certainly has had a nice career, nice earnings. And, he's 9-5 here. Juan Hernandez, maybe this horse does go out towards the lead. That's kind of been his style. That's been where he's run his best races. So we'll see if this horse is good enough. So we've got the 7 horse, who is Jimmy Blue Jeans. So in the pick 5, we've got the 1, 5, and the 7. All right, let's go over to the next race of the day. Next race being the 10th race. This is a mile on the dirt, and this is a $16,000 claimer, 3-year-olds and up. It's basically what this kind of boils down to. It's kind of a non-winners of 2 here. If you're 3-year-old, you carry lighter weight. If you're older, you carry heavier weight. So I've got 3 horses I'm going to put in here. Boy, this is just a lot of also-rans in this race, so can't spend too much time on this race. I'm going to put the 2, Valentine's Candy, Jesus Mendoza, who's had a nice record in limited starters. Kazushi Kimura takes the call. This horse is 7-2 in the program. Is kind of knocked around in these claiming races, and also has run some starters. This might be just a matter of this horse being out of the 2-hole, Kimura giving this horse a good trip, not making him do a whole lot. Maybe this horse will finish and beat this field. That's the 2, Valentine's Candy. Going to also put the 4, who is Battle Cruiser, John Sadler, Raylu Gutierrez here. Now, yeah, this is a panic drop. I mean, Horonas Stables bought this horse for $300,000, and this horse has been running in claiming races in his last several. Yeah, panic drop for sure. If you're a horse owner, you're a trainer, I don't know if you're claiming this horse. Probably not, since this horse hasn't been claimed when he's running $16,000 races. But we're talking about winning a race here. So maybe this horse has found his friends and, a slow enough field that he should, be competitive with based on his last couple races. As I mentioned, Raylu Gutierrez takes the call. Gutierrez has been a regular rider now in Southern California. Certainly can get the job done. Horse is 9-2 in the program, so that's the 4 horse. Battle Cruiser. And then finally, I'm going to put the 6 horse, who is White Mountain, for Ryan Hansen. Now, this horse is another horse that, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I mean, this is a $120,000 purchase, and this horse being by Tappet. Certainly a lot of hope was probably into this horse, and, he's running for 16. But, I like this horse's last race. He broke his maiden at a mile at Santa Anita back in late March. So, only a couple weeks, a few weeks back. And, the horse didn't get claimed for 20. Now they're putting him in for 16, Ryan Hansen. Escobedo takes the ride. Escobedo's been on this horse a couple times. He rode this horse really nicely last time. This horse showed a lot of energy. And, maybe that Tappet, bloodline will come through here, in a race like this. Obviously, this horse has some type of issues because he's running here at this level. But as I mentioned, this is really not a good field. So, a horse like this, can just reach down, and if he can run similar to what he did last time, as I mentioned, Escobedo gave the horse a nice ride. I like the way Escobedo's been riding. He's been winning some races. And, this is a jock who he doesn't get a whole lot of chances. So, these are kind of things where he can get it done here. He starts, stacking up wins, and maybe he gets better horses to ride. So I'll put the 6 horse White Mountain in here for pick 5 purposes. So we've got the 2, 4, and the 6. All right, now let's go to the last race of the day. Last race being the 11th race. 11th race is approximate post time about 6:08 Pacific, so about 8 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone. This is a maiden special weight, California breds. They're running 6 furlongs on the flat grass. These are 3-year-old fillies and up. And, some first starters, some horses have been running here. I'm going to try to cap off this pick 5 with 4 horses in coverage. And I'm hoping that single gets it done for us there in Raw Ability, that in the 7th race. We've got 4 horses to cover us here. All right, I'm going to go with the 9 horse, who is Naturally Blonde, Jeff Mullins. Mullins takes this horse over from Carla Gaines. So switching the trainer here. Maybe this is a private purchase. I'm not exactly sure. But this horse has been running in the maiden special weight ranks. In the Calbred ranks, and showing up here, running couple seconds, hitting the board. This horse is 10-1 today. Raylu Gutierrez. We'll put this horse in. Certainly has a shot here. Going to put the 10 horse, who is Have Patience, for Doug O'Neill, Umberto Rispoli. This horse 7-2 in the program. My guess this horse will get bet lower than that 7-2 morning line, listing here. Certainly Have Patience has been running with, these type of horses have been running some nice races, hitting the board. This horse certainly has a big chance here. In his last race, he ended up running in that race won by Practical Dazzle, and Garden Party. Garden Party came second that day, and Garden Party won a nice race yesterday. So, maybe a live race there that has Have Patience is coming out of. So that's the 10. We'll put him in, or put her in there. Going to put the 11, who is Miss Mrazek. Miss Mrazek, trained by Antonio Garcia. And, the Garcia barn, heated up towards the latter half of the Santa Anita meet. I know that Garcia is a good trainer, had a really good year last year, and he had come out cold this year. Apparently he had some sickness or something going through his barn, so that sure, took its toll and had an effect on why he wasn't winning races. But, as I mentioned, in the latter half of the Santa Anita meet, had been doing a lot better. And, he should do better here, too. Miss Mrazek had run one time, ran at the end of the Del Mar meet last summer in a 5-furlong grass race. And those are tough races. You've got to have a good position. You got to get out, and this horse didn't do that. This horse kind of had a rough start. Just kind of ran towards the back of the pack and made a nice move. So at 6-1 here, Gonzalez takes the call. We'll see if Miss Mrazek can come back off the long layoff here, and she's 6-1, as I mentioned. So we'll put the 11, Miss Mrazek. And then finally, I'm going to put the 12 horse, who was Clubhouse Cutie. Ian Kruljak, as I mentioned, Ian Kruljak's taking horses over for Eric Kruljak. And if you look at the breeding of this horse, this is the little sister to the Chosen Vron. So we'll see if, Chosen Vron's little sister could be a runner. She had tried one time back in mid-January. She just kind of had an even race on the dirt there. Kent DeSormo takes the call. This horse is 15-1. I wonder if we'll see 15-1. If she's been doing well in the mornings, word will get out there, and she'll probably be less than that. But we'll put Chosen Vron's little sister, the Clubhouse Cutie, number 12 in there in the last race. So we've got the 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the tickets. Okay, so for today, Saturday, April 26th, I've got a late pick 5 ticket, which starts in the 7th race, and a win bet starting that off. So in the 7th race, I'm going to single the 2, Raw Ability, with the 6, 9, 10, with the 1, 5, 7, with the 2, 4, 6, with the 9, 10, 11, 12 at the end. That's a $54 ticket. And then again, we've got the win bet in the 7th race on the 2, Raw Ability. So as always, if you see fit, you can play this as is. If you want to add or subtract to it, play the pick 3s within it, play the pick 4 or that late pick 3. Those are all good bets and have been paying off nicely. So whatever you decide to do, I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very safe day of racing. Let's wish ourselves some good luck and some good trips and get some good results here. So again, thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today. As always, I ask you to do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you, it just puts you into the audience, and you get the feed when new content gets created. Thanks to everybody who has hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate you. You could like, dislike, make comments. I promise to respond to everything. So let's create a discussion. So thanks again for watching Fast Horses today for Saturday, April 26th. Let's make this a great day at the Great Race Place, and we'll see you back tomorrow for more coverage. Thank you.